Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that honestly needs urgent attention. We're talking about the escalating crisis of youth drug abuse. We've got a set of sources here that paint a pretty sobering picture, especially for places that maybe thought they were immune to this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a major shift. For a long time, there was this identity almost of being a drug-free nation, especially compared to some other parts of the world. But these sources, well, they make it clear the idea is really being challenged now,
And
severely.
how it's being challenged is what's so alarming. It's not just some fringe issue anymore. It's in the schools, it's online. It feels like the old barriers are just gone.
Exactly. The access is almost frictionless now. Think about it, what used to mean taking risks, meeting someone, finding a connection. Now it could just be a few clicks, maybe on social media, maybe a messenger app they use every day. The digital world has become the front door.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Our mission today is to really look at the hard numbers, the stats that show how fast this problem is growing. We need to see the scale of it. But then, and this is the really fascinating part, we'll shift to the response. Specifically, this amazing project called Not a Lab, started by international school students themselves.
It's quite the contrast, isn't it? You've got the data showing maybe where systems are failing, and then this grassroots effort trying to build something new.
Right. Let's start with those statistics because, frankly, they stop you in your tracks. This isn't a slow creep. It feels like a spike, a huge one, and it seems driven by this easy online access.
We really have to talk about fentanyl first. That's where the risk is just incredibly high right now. The sources point to this huge leap in illegal online fentanyl sales aimed squarely at young people. We're talking Food and Drug Safety data showing over 200 cases detected online in just the first half of this year.
Over 200 cases in 6 months. Just pause on that. That's already more than 3 times the number for the entire previous year. Wasn't it only 62 cases last year?
That's right, 62. So yeah, more than triple. And you have to understand, fentanyl is potent, like hundreds of times stronger than morphine. For someone young, maybe trying something for the first time, getting it online where who knows what the dose is or what it's mixed with, it's unbelievably dangerous. The speed this is hitting the youth market is just.
Yeah, and that tracks with the enforcement numbers too, right? The arrests among young people tell a similar story, a really sharp increase. It went from, what, about 481 arrests in 2022
Uh-huh.
to nearly 1,477 to be exact in 2023.
Yeah.
It's almost triple again.
Yeah, that kind of jump, over 1,000 more arrests in just 1 year, it tells you this isn't just a few isolated incidents, it's widespread. Now, okay, you could argue maybe enforcement got better, more targeted, and perhaps that's part of it, but the sheer volume suggests it's more than that. It points toward higher prevalence. The current estimate, I think the source said, is around 2.6% for youth drug use experience.
But there's another layer to this access issue, isn't there? It's not just illegal online dealers. The sources mention medical channels too.
That's a really crucial point. It's not just the dark web or hidden messenger groups. There's been a general rise in prescriptions for certain medical drugs. The sources tracked this. General medical drug prescriptions went from 54 cases linked to potential issues in 2019 up to 81 in 2022. But specifically, fentanyl patches, the kind used for severe pain prescriptions, for those jumped 84.2% in that same time frame.
Wow. And why is that specific jump so significant?
Well, it just means there's more of it out there in medicine cabinets, potentially being diverted, maybe through family, maybe fraudulently. It increases the overall supply circulating in society, and it sort of normalizes its presence, maybe. It creates another potential pathway, even before someone thinks about looking online.
Okay, so the scale is clear. The access points are multiplying, both illegal and, worryingly, through legitimate channels sometimes. So now, the big question, why? What's actually driving young people, especially that 10 to 20 age group, take that first step, particularly in places where this was maybe more taboo before?
The sources keep coming back to one main thing: curiosity. Just plain curiosity. They frame it almost like an experiment.
Yeah.
You know, that adolescent urge to push boundaries, test things out? It seems like that's a major initial driver. And the digital world makes these substances seem novel, maybe even exciting, or sometimes falsely marketed as performance enhancers.
And that curiosity gets amplified by peers.
Right.
Friends maybe talking about it or trying things. But the opportunity comes from that easy online access we talked about. It's less about actively seeking escape, maybe, and more about stumbling onto it while just scrolling.
I think that's a big part of it, and this is where the system seems to be falling short. The sources point out that even with this changing landscape, with digital access being so key,
Hmm.
the regular systematic prevention education just hasn't kept up. It's often still missing. The old just say no campaigns, maybe using scare tactics or examples that just don't feel relevant to a teenager seeing this stuff pop up in their feed. It creates a vacuum.
So if schools and society aren't providing the right kind of education, the kind that addresses the digital reality, they're almost leaving the door open for that initial curiosity to lead somewhere dangerous.
It feels that way. That information gap gets filled instantly by whatever they find online, which might be completely misleading.
Which brings us perfectly to the response. This educational void, this gap, that's exactly what a group of international school students saw. And they decided, okay, we need to do something ourselves. And that's how Not a Lab started.
Yes, it's such a direct, powerful response. They're hitting that core psychological driver head on, the whole experiment idea.
The name itself, Not a Lab, it's brilliant. It directly challenges that mindset. And their motto, it's simple but effective. Drugs are not a tool in a lab. You shouldn't test and ruin your body future. It speaks their language.
Absolutely. And it's coming from a place of, generational ownership. There's this quote from one of the student leaders, Chohei Hariam. She said something like, "Youth drug issues are not someone else's story. This is our generation's reality." And then she adds, "We want to fill the educational void left by schools and society ourselves." That really sums up the urgency they feel.
That quote says so much, doesn't it? About why maybe the traditional approach fails sometimes. It gets treated like someone else's story, a problem for adults over there to solve.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is their whole strategy is built around peers talking to peers. The sources even quote a preventative medicine expert who backs this up strongly. The expert basically says this peer-centered approach is the most realistic way to garner empathy and create behavioral change.
Okay, let's dig into that. Why is that peer connection so much more effective than, say, a teacher or a police officer giving a presentation?
Well, think about context. Peers share the same world, the same slang, the same social pressures. They know the apps everyone's using. An adult giving a generic warning might not even know how kids are encountering this stuff online. It doesn't land the same way. But advice from a peer, someone who genuinely gets it, that feels real. It builds trust. And trust, well, that's fundamental if you want to actually change behavior.
Right. So these students, they didn't just make some posters. They built a whole toolkit designed to fight the digital problem with digital tools, but also with real connection. What's in the kit?
It's pretty comprehensive, actually. They started with bilingual guidebooks, practical, non-judgmental info. I think they distributed about 50 initially. Then there's tech, a mobile website, and an app. These let you quickly look up drug components. Super important if someone encounters something and isn't sure what it is.
And the core digital piece seems to be this Clear AI tool. How does that work, especially with all the misinformation swirling around online?
Yeah, Clear AI is designed to cut through the noise. You know how dealers or online posts might use vague language or call things safe party pills or study aids? Clear AI acts like a filter. It helps identify those misleading claims and gives you the actual facts, the real risks associated with substances. It's basically fighting bad digital info with good digital info.
So like a specialized fact checker for drug claims, giving you immediate reliable info instead of just hoping a search engine gets it right.
Pretty much. And it's not just tech. They're using storytelling posters, things that resonate emotionally. And crucially, these peer-led Q&A sessions. That creates a space where kids might actually feel comfortable asking honest questions, admitting they're curious, way more likely than in a formal classroom setting.
This sounds really ambitious, much bigger than just one school. The sources say they're launching this month, October, right? In schools in Korea and Mongolia.
That's the plan. And they have clear goals. Get over 100 participants involved initially, boost awareness among their peers by 50%, run an online campaign to spread the word. And it's getting noticed. The project is recognized for contributing to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, health and well-being, quality education. They're actually planning to pitch this whole thing to mentors, potential sponsors, even universities. They see it scaling up.
And that scaling, that amplification, it needed some help, didn't it? The sources mentioned support from the SNS Journalists Association. That seems key to taking it beyond just a student project.
Definitely. That kind of collaboration is vital. It shows how peer-led initiatives can have real impact when established institutions help amplify the message, give it reach.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've seen this alarming surge in risk fueled by curiosity and incredibly easy online access. lethal stuff like fentanyl just clicks away. But then we see this really smart, tech-savvy, and genuinely empathetic response bubbling up from the ground level, from the students themselves, with not a lab.
Exactly. And connecting it to the bigger picture, it really highlights the power, maybe even the necessity of bottom-up action. When the big systems, education, government are maybe slow to adapt to these new digital threats, the people living that reality, the students, they step into the gap, the success, even the potential success of not a lab, really points to where prevention efforts need to focus, I think.
Agreed. Which leaves us, and leaves you, with a pretty important question to think about. If experts are saying that peer-to-peer is the most realistic method for changing behavior around tough issues like this, what is it about relevance, about trust, about digital understanding that's still missing from so many of our traditional top-down education systems? What gaps are future students likely going to have to keep filling themselves?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Will the next big breakthrough in keeping young people safe come from policymakers, or will it come from the shared experiences and ingenuity of peers?
Something important to consider. Thanks for diving deep with us today.